I mentioned that is that the reason a lot of times your family was used against you. Even if you wanted to leave, if your family is like, they would send your wife over, you're not going to leave your wife there. So no matter how pissed off you weren't going to leave the temple. And vice versa, they might send your husband over, and your wife is here in the U.S., and she's not going to leave because she's not indebted, but she's dedicated to you. I'm not going to leave my husband there. And so it'd be the same. Sometimes your children would go over before you, and you'd be left here as parents, or vice versa. Your parents would go over first, and the children, if they were teenagers, would be here to be on a work cruise here in the U.S. So we get to the pavilion. Jones is up front. Even as the chair, which I'm sure you've seen on different documentaries, a large knowledge chair or whatnot. And those who don't know the history are doomed to repeat it. That little sign is up there. And after everybody got off, all 100 of us got there after an hour or so, and we're sitting there and everybody's looking around at each other. Man, you really changed. Oh, you gained weight, but you lost a lot of weight. The music starts quieting down. And so I'm holding Ollie's hand, and they started calling people to the stage. And these are people that were married gentlemen who had had extraneous affairs driving across country, or after their wives and children had left. And one of the rules was that when we got to Jonestown, there would be no corporal punishment. And let me go on a tangent here for a little bit. Not a tangent, but a different angle.
Yeah.
On Wednesday nights, it was members only. And so you go on what's called the floor. And on the floor, there would be security guards, Jones would be in the pulpit, and people who had accused you of stuff, or you had done something wrong against the cause, or that was derogatory to people's temple boys' beliefs, you might be disciplined on the floor depending on who you were. That discipline might include, okay, you're going to work for 24 hours straight and you will be supervised. That discipline might be, well, you're going to have to go out and procure. The other one was impending, we're going to beat your ass. And so that wasn't supposed to be, that was only supposed to be here in the U.S. And the reason that supposedly was justified here is we're not going to send our women, our young women, our young men, adults, to jail here in this system. And so therefore the corporal punishment, the punishment will be internal and not external by the system, so to speak. So when they started calling people on stage, it's like, oh man, I don't believe this. And so they called, I'm not going to mention their names, but they called them up, did you have, oh no, I didn't do that, yes you did. And so some got beat up, others had to work 24 hours for the next 24 hours, and they'd have supervisors for 8 hours. They might be going out picking bananas, they might go out working in the field and going back to your field. Everybody had to work in the field 30 days when you came to Jonestown. Whether you had a PhD or you had a junior high education, you had to work 30 days in the field, and that was a great equalizer. It equalized everybody. Everybody's gonna work in the field and get a taste of this. So they're calling people up and they're telling us to be very quiet when we leave, don't make very much noise by the wine cellar because we have somebody in there. And that was a gentleman, they felt had been a traitor. So he was in a box in the banana cellar. And the banana cellars are always underground, or it's like a tunnel so it doesn't get any sunlight for the bananas to ripen. Larry's shack. And I'm holding out his hand, I'm good. Eugene, you're hurting me. I'm sorry. And so now I'm in shock. I want to run, but she is literally days away from delivering my child, or our child rather. And I have a decision to make. Do I make a stand and take these repercussions? Do I learn my way around, get initiated? What do I do? And the paranoia was so high, think about it. Gentlemen and ladies, you can talk to your husband or talk to your wife, and there's things that you share with them you would share with no one else. The paranoia was so high, you couldn't even do that. And people just seemed to be completely, I don't know if it was fear, obsession, or just tired. Because you worked from sun up to sundown, and then we would have what's called a white night, when we had a fight night, that meant that you were under attack. And that the only way to stop this attack is to make a joyful noise, so to speak, to let them know that we're here and we are ready. And so, the first night I was there, we had a fight night. It was 2 or 3 o'clock that morning, and he asked, well, who wants to go to work at 7 o'clock? And everybody raises their hands, like, no way. But we did. And that was a constant issue of not a fight night, just a very elongated meeting. And I'm sorry I went off stage there.
That's all good. That was something I was going to ask you about, actually.
Please.
But since, and during that first night there, you had some of these reservations and kind of thoughts, like, what am I doing? Did any of those thoughts occur to you before you left the U.S.?
Yes, one of the counselors, and so we would have like a movie night, just to take a break. If you were in Georgetown, you were working 14-hour days. So we're at the movies, and we're watching Tora, and one of the ushers comes down, hey, there's been a shooting at Baumhart Gardens. Baumhart Gardens was our estate. I say estate, but don't get me wrong, it was not an estate. Okay, not in the sense of the American version of an estate. It was a large house with a canal in front, and behind that canal, a few hundred yards, was the GDL, which is the Guidance Defense Force. There's been a shooting at Baumhart Gardens, so we all ran out the theater, jumped in the truck, and flew across town. As I come through the gate, I hear my friends calling my name, Robin and Carl, and calling me, Eugene. It's like, what the hell is going on? And they're in the elephant grass. Elephant grass isn't that tall, but it's a really large bush that you can crouch behind. And so what's going on? They're killing the kids. What? What are you talking about, they're killing the kids? They're killing the kids, Eugene. I said, okay, give me 5 minutes. If I'm not back in 5 minutes, go to the Prime Minister's house. And the reason I said that was that we had carte blanche at Forbes Burnham's house at that point, being able to go to the Prime Minister's house. He had a private zoo. We'd go jogging, we'd go to his house, look at the zoo, jog back to Baumhart Gardens. So as I come in, I see 2 seniors, they're twins. They're like in their late 70s. And if you've ever seen a hound dog, how their eyes are just bloodshot red at the bottom when they're looking up. That's how the seniors looked. And then I started scanning the room, and I'm starting to go back down the hallway to the main bedroom because I didn't see anybody dead up front. And I got stopped. Don't go back to Eugene. What are you talking about? But nobody's saying anything. And so I see people standing in the kitchen, and I see people in the living room, and everybody's looking distraught. It's like, something's wrong. But them killing the children, I'm expecting to see children. So as you open up the main bedroom, when you open up the door, it blocks the shower. So in order to see the shower, you have to step all the way into the bedroom and look into the shower. So I look into the shower, I see Sharon Amos, her throat is slit. I see her 3 children, Leanne, Martin, and Krista. All their throats are cut. And it's so fresh, the blood is not coagulated, it's still running. It's still draining. It seemed like I stood there a long time, but it was just a matter of seconds. I back into the hallway, and this is where it gets weird because there's no way she had cut her throat, a teenager's throat, and 2 children's throats. And they're all in the shower together, all slumped. So whoever killed them is in the house. So now I have to go past the murderer, which I don't know who is, excuse me, I'm getting loud. I don't know who that is. So I'm standing in the hallway, I'm stealing myself. So I walk out, I'm looking towards the kitchen because that's where knives are stored, in the kitchen. Scan everybody closely, look them in their eyes, and everybody has a deadpan look. So I walk outside and I run downstairs, and I tell Carl and Rob, I said, look, if we ran, we did it. We're gonna have to stay here, we're gonna have to piper. We're gonna have to face the piper, because if we run, we're gonna get blamed for these murders, and we didn't do it, and you guys weren't even upstairs. The fact that you're out here in the field proves that, because everybody else that was in the house was upstairs. So I helped them back across the fence, and we're just standing in the yard, not knowing what to do. Soon after that, the Guyanese police department shows up, and they start separating us and everything. And I don't even remember when they removed the bodies. I was in so much shock, and because her baby daughter, Krista, was Ali and I's adopted daughter, and so we didn't know Jonestown had even happened yet. Okay, this is the night of the 18th. The police officer is the one that informed me, and he didn't inform me on purpose. He says, we don't care if you kill yourselves, but you killed some of us there in Jonestown. What? I run to the radio room. I'm trying to contact Jonestown, which is nothing. And so then I'm trying to contact the temple in San Francisco. And I wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? I wasn't versed on shortwave radios completely, but I knew a call sign and so forth. So I contacted somebody in Connecticut or somewhere, and I was going to call the temple and tell them, don't do anything. We don't know what's happening here. So then, the police come in, they take me out of the room, etc. And they started interrogating us. And the interrogation goes on for the remainder of the night. By that early morning, because this was like late 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and so by the early hours of the night, the morning, like 1 and 2 a.m. in the morning, the Guyanese defense force had set up a perimeter behind us, and none of the guns were pointing out. All the guns were pointing in, so we were the danger. And that's when, and like I said, I knew when he said y'all killed some of us, we don't care if you kill yourselves. I knew something had happened in Jonestown. And then it wasn't until the 19th we heard that something had happened in Jonestown, but there was no media at that time. And the Guyanese Defense Force, I guess, were the first ones to come in and realize that something had happened. So we didn't know for a fact everybody was dead in Jonestown until the 21st. Whereas here, you all in the States knew within hours, because the State Department informed you of that. And so all we knew was that they were flying out equipment, medical equipment and stuff. And then you see all the bodies that were arranged. They didn't die in a coordinated semicircle. And they did not all take cyanide. And the way that went was that the children went first. And if you see your wife, or you see your husband, or you see your sister inject your smaller brother or your child, you've lost your reason to live, because what you're passing on has been passed, or they're passing. People fought, people ran, people were shot. They found people with injection marks in their shoulder blades, in their back, in their buttocks. It wasn't a calm scene as it was portrayed initially. Out of 916 people, there were 87 survivors. And I think 30 or so of us were, don't quote me on this, 30 or so of us were already in Georgetown. There's some people who walked out the day that it was happening. And then I didn't know I was being tortured until somebody told me that. You know you're being tortured, right? No. And I thought that torture was when you beat somebody into submission and they tell you, dude, stop. And what it was is like every time we might doze off, because they've already been up 24 plus hours, they would rack their AKs, which snap awake. I didn't know that was torture. And I was still in shock. And so on the 21st, they've given us some freedom in the sense that we can walk around the house, we can't leave the house or anything, and we're running out of food and staples. And it's still, we don't know how to deal with this because we don't have any communication with anybody on the outside. And what people don't realize is there were multiple sets of survivors. There were survivors that actually walked out of Jonestown that day and the night before. There were survivors that were on our boat, the Cudjoe. There were survivors on our larger vessel, the Marcelo. There were survivors at the Georgetown airport who had just landed. There were survivors in New York at the airport getting ready to come over. And then there were survivors at the temple in San Francisco, the temple in Los Angeles, and the temple in River Valley that we planned to come over at some point. And I consider them all survivors. I hope I didn't belabor that.
No, it's just an unimaginable experience. And you kind of briefly mentioned it, but to clarify, when you were basically detained, and for how long?
Yes.
You didn't go back to the US immediately at all.
No.
You were actually trapped.
While I was in Georgetown, there were different rumors being spread in Jonestown that I was on the hit squad, and that anybody that survived it was my purpose to assassinate you. And that was based on anybody that was not there in the encampment at that time. And so again, people did not have an out. You know, well, I know my brother's going to protect me. I know my husband's going to protect me. I know my wife's going to protect me. No, they're assassins. If you get away from this, they're going to kill you too, because they're dedicated.